thanks to Mary and Colin as well for laying it out in such clear and indeed in such stark terms as well, the importance of unemployed workers' coordination, solidarity and movements, those alliances, even though it's been very difficult to create practical alliances in history between the trade union movement and indeed the wider labour movement and the unemployed. You know, those attempts have been made and those lessons have been learned. And we've still got a long way to go, of course, but our community initiative, 10 years old, what a fantastic initiative it is, comes from our politics and our understanding of that. So look, a huge thanks for your contributions, Mary and Colin, and a huge thanks to all of you actually participating in today's event for everything that you do, everything that you've done, not just over the course of the last 10 years, but in promoting solidarity and in particular working class solidarity, whether in work or out of work during the course of your lives, and for everything that you're going to do in the future, of course. Leanne just said, you know, this is personal to me, and it is personal to me. You know, I fought for full employment all of my non-working life as well as my working life. And I have had that non-working life. I've been unemployed. I spent a large chunk of the 1980s unemployed during that recession when we saw the People's March for Jobs, very similar to the initiatives that Mary was talking about of the 20s and the 1930s and the famous Jarrow marches. Well, we had the People's Marches for Jobs in 1981 and in 1983. We had mass unemployment at that point. I remember those queues that Colin spoke about outside the job centres to go and sign on and having discussions with people and being radicalised, actually, got politicised during that movement. We had the miners' strike. We'd had the steelworkers' strike. We were going into disputes at Wapping in the print industry. The electricians have been out. We'd had a whole series of major industrial conflicts. And of course, the Tories were at the forefront of their attack on not just the industrial heartlands of our nations, but more importantly for us, of course, our movement. And they knew that if they could take out the National Union of Mine Workers, the T&G in terms of the docks, the print working unions, you know, if they could take out the heartlands of our movement, that the influence that those groups of workers had in our movement was completely and absolutely disproportionate to their actual size. And they were the thoroughbreds, if you like, the motivators, the inspirers within our movement. And that was a concerted and absolutely deliberate attack on our class when they went for the miners and they went for the dockers and the steelworkers, the printers and others. And I spent many an hour in the Southwark Unemployed Workers Centre, building our solidarity in South East London, where I live, for miners in Kent and elsewhere, and the dockers, of course, and at Wapping during the print dispute. And it was only when the cuts came, the rate capping came and the attacks, very similar to 10 years of austerity. We've been here before. During the 1980s, it was rate capping. And we were having those same campaigns to keep local services alive and central government funding for initiatives like the great unemployed workers centres that Colin is still a very proud part of. And our Southwark Unemployed Centre was lost during that period. The trade union movement didn't step up. It didn't fund it. We lost hundreds, actually, of unemployed workers centres, much to our peril. And that takes me all the way back to that discussion 10 years ago, when we took control of our union and Unite was formed. And we became one. We'd merged officially, two great unions, many legacy unions, the Amicus and T&G merger, and we formed Unite. And we formed Unite for a purpose. And when we won control of Unite, the single general secretary, the first single general secretary of Unite, it was Len. And we sat down and what was our program? And our program was that fighting back, organising program that built alliances. It wasn't just about what we could do inside Unite and for our members inside Unite. It's how we could raise the expectations, the demands, the confidence of our class. And that's why Unite has funded so many initiatives, from UK Uncut to the People's Assembly, you know, the unemployed workers movements where we can express our solidarity and support. That's why we formed Community, to give a home, a voice, an avenue, an identity for working class people and their communities back again with the trade union movement. And that's what we've tried to do for 10 years, to get back to that principled position where, you know, unity is everything and solidarity means progress. And you don't make progress in any walk of life without struggle. So it was supporting our struggles in our communities, about linking the industrial union with those that were unfortunate enough to find themselves out of work or unable to work, those that weren't in paid employment, so the carers and the students, all of those that weren't in paid work and therefore eligible to join a union. And we opened our union up to that. And I'm incredibly proud of, one, the decision that we took to do it and the support that we gained from our executive. Don't forget, our executive is a lay member elected body made up of working people. And they made a decision to fund and to open up our union to those that were not in paid employment. And we've had many hurdle put in front of us on our journey towards the full integration of our community membership into our union. And it's been a struggle at times, so we all understand that. But we've made real progress. And the reason we've made real progress is we've directly linked the struggles of the unemployed with the struggles of those that are in work. We've made our community membership and our actions and our campaigns as relevant to our industrial membership as it's been to those that were directly involved in them. And we can be incredibly proud of that. You can be incredibly proud of that because you've done that. You've done that day in, day out, week in, week out for 10 years, and many of you for a lot longer than 10 years. But inside Unite, you've done that for 10 years. We faced during this whole period failed ideological austerity politics. This attack, this ideological attack, shrinking the state, shrinking local services, removing whole swathes of support, the shirkers and the skivers, you know, that whole debate about full employment, the mystique around full employment, as if, of course, there's thousands of jobs for people to apply for out there and people choose to be unemployed and therefore they're shirking and will attack the benefit system in order to force them back into work. And all those issues that Colin raised about the importance of full employment and organising the unemployed in order to protect the interests of the employed as much as anything else. It's incredibly important. I always say to our members, even in the working environment, that our full-time core employees that are protected by trade union recognition, collective bargaining, decent terms and conditions, shop stewards organisation and an officer that will come in to support them. If we don't organise those that are around us, in the periphery, the agency workers, the temporary workers, all of those that will be used by employers to undermine and cheapen the price of labour and the dignity of work, then we will be benchmarked constantly against cheaper price labour, lower cost labour. And that will be to our detriment. We have to reach out and organise the employed as much as, of course, we have to organise the unemployed. So I've never left my trade unionism at the factory gate or the office door. I've always taken that back into my community. I remember the pain. I remember when I was unemployed, having the problems that you all face. And things have moved on, of course. This was the 1980s, but having those struggles to pay rent. I remember standing outside pubs on the Old Kent Road where I live, waiting for a white van to turn up at 6 o'clock in the morning, hoping that someone will open the door and say, I want 3 people to come and help me on a building job. And you'd get a day's work and you'd be back there the next day at 6 o'clock to try and get another day's work. Some days you'd get nothing. Some weeks you'd get nothing, but you struggled. And it was the same as others 100 years before had struggled to get a day's work. Then it was the dockers' tally where they simply throw a tally out and you physically fight for a tally. And if you got your tally, then you got a day's work or half a day's work or maybe a couple of hours work. But if you didn't fight and get your tally, you got nothing. And there was no unemployment insurance at that point. There was no welfare state at that point. The viciousness, the callousness of unemployment, the poverty of unemployment itself, let alone the real economic poverty that comes with unemployment. So we can be incredibly proud of what we've done. You've been at the forefront of all of those campaigns, all of those local campaigns, which have been great that you've initiated on local issues really important to you. And we've supported them as best as we can in whatever way we can. I'm very proud of our community coordinators that have built that movement in all of our regions, giving you the support on a daily basis that you need. But we've also had them huge national campaigns, from the bedroom tax to anti-eviction strategies to now universal credit, the £20 uplift. The fact that that needs to be permanent, but it also needs to go to legacy benefits. The protection that we've given to disabled people, the support we've given to organisations like DPAC. Fantastic stuff. The People's Assembly movement that I'm incredibly proud to chair, and like Community, I've chaired since we first initiated the People's Assembly against austerity. Building those broader alliances to make effective change happen. We can't do it ourselves. We can't do it as working people. We can't just do it as a union. We can't just do it as a labour movement. We have to get out in our communities and win that battle of ideas, to do what Mary, I think it was, said about agitate, educate, organise. That's been our mantra for 100 years and more. We've got to get out, whether it's a soapbox or whether it's on the phone, whether it's in a mass meeting or whether it's down the pub, on the bus. You've got to have that discussion with people. You've got to win the battle of ideas about a better world is possible. We deserve, our class deserves better, but we'll have to win it. We've never been given anything in our lives, not at work, not out of work. We've had to win it. Social progress, the history of social progress is a history of struggle. I love that, the factory raids argument that Mary laid out against unemployment. I want to get back to some of that. I love Leanne's Ritz example, where people went in and sat down and demanded a cup of tea. I think direct actions, organising, motivating, inspiring people to make a difference are absolutely the way forward. There's very practical things. We raised over £100,000 for the Christmas appeal to put clothing and toys and Christmas effects into food banks and clothing banks across all of our nations at Christmas. But poverty is a political choice. It's not for Christmas. Poverty is there constantly until we change society for the better. So making them permanent links between our industrial branches and our community branches. So it's ongoing, dealing with in-work poverty. I have that debate every quarter on our executive and every week in this office with our working members, defending and advancing the interests of our own members that are on such low rates of pay or so few hours a week that they themselves are claiming universal credit. The in-work poverty is at destitute levels in UK society right now. So that battle for full employment, what does a full employment look like? What does a job look like in the new transitioning economy where we've got automation, where we've got artificial intelligence, where we've got a new green economy emerging, where we've got a transition again, as Mary said, where all of those stable industries declined in the 1920s and the 1930s, where we're going to see that again now with that transition from traditional industries to greener industries. And we've got to make sure that we leave nobody, no worker, no family, no community behind on that transition towards a greener economy. And that's incredibly important to do that. So I'll just leave it with a plug, Leanne. I'm going to leave it with a plug for the 26th and the 26th of June and the People's Assembly demo. It's in London. If you can't make it to London, then start a demo in your town or your city. If you haven't got a People's Assembly group, form one. Get involved in those discussions, because that's the alliance. That's the broader alliance we're so proud to be a part of that will make a difference. Win that battle of ideas. Be confident. Inspire and motivate those around you, and change will come. But we're going to have to win it, and win it we will.